Hello and welcome to Too Important Not to Share, local workforce data presented to the Greater Susquehanna Valley Chamber and our Chair Circle partners. We were delighted to host Advanced Central PA's Bill Berry, a research and data wizard in the Greater Susquehanna Valley, just a few weeks ago. We are so excited to be able to share what he shared with us with all of our members. Special thanks to the 2022 Chair Circle program, who is making this program possible. We're joined this afternoon by William Bill Berry. William is a research analyst with Advanced Central PA who manages all the labor market data and translates it so that we can understand it. He's been with Advanced Central PA for nearly 17 years and holds a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics with a minor in Statistics. He graduated summa cum laude from Bloomsburg University.
Jamie. Thank you, Chris, for that introduction. That was much more than I needed. My name is William Berry, or Bill Berry. I'm a research analyst with Advanced Central PA. You may remember us as Central Pennsylvania Workforce Development Corporation, but we recently rebranded and we're now doing business as Advanced Central PA. If you're not familiar, we are the Central Pennsylvania Workforce Development Board. We cover a 9-county workforce development area and all the counties you see on your screen there. Our main directive is to oversee the workforce development and Title I funding. And we also oversee the 6 Pennsylvania Career Link sites throughout the region, as well as the Link. The Link is the mobile career center that you may have seen in your backyard at some point. Specifically, I work in the research department. I work in what we call the Research Consortium. We provide labor market information to our workforce development board, but we also work with other workforce development boards across the state of Pennsylvania. We do monthly reports, various projects, requests on demand for employers. I believe all of you are employers here today. We do requests on demand for educators, for chambers of commerce as well. So basically anybody who needs workforce development information or economic information, that's what we specialize in the research department. So to kick things off, I think we wanted to talk about what is the state of the workforce in Central Pennsylvania. So when we get asked that question, the first thing I think of is to look at the labor market information. And if we go back in time to January 2020, to a time before all this pandemic stuff started to happen, started to affect the local economy, started to affect the workforce. We saw a pretty robust labor force, over 300,000 individuals. And when we say labor force, that includes 290,300 employed individuals, people who are actually working, as well as 14,000 unemployed individuals, or individuals who are eligible, willing, able, and actually wanting to work, and they're trying to find work, or simply say job seekers. Overall, the unemployment rate was 4.6%. Fast forward to the latest information that just came out for December 2021. We see a contracted labor force. The labor force shrunk by 18,100 people, a decrease of almost 6%. That resulted from nearly 15,000 fewer employed individuals, a drop of 5%, and also 10,800 fewer job seekers, a drop of nearly 23%. And I include all that information because if you just looked at the unemployment rate for December 2021, you would see the 3.8%, and you'd say, hey, things are pretty good. We have a very low unemployment rate. But when you look at the labor force shrinking, you see the fewer job seekers, you see things aren't really so happy in terms of the labor force in Central Pennsylvania. Those 3,200 fewer unemployed individuals, those are basically individuals who have dropped out of the labor force. So when I said to be unemployed, you have to be actively searching for employment. So individuals stop looking for employment, they stop looking for a job for whatever reason. And once that happens, they actually drop out of the labor force and they're no longer counted as a job seeker. Another piece of information that I wanted to share to talk about the workforce in Central Pennsylvania is the unemployment compensation activity. Here we're looking at the initial unemployment compensation claims. I'm sorry, I'm getting a message that my internet's unstable. It always happens with Zoom. Final day, but then I hop on Zoom and it says unstable. So we're looking at the initial unemployment compensation claims in Central Pennsylvania since January 2020. You see that huge spike there. again, pandemic, lots of people lost their jobs, lots of initial claims were filed, but then things have leveled out. So, in central Pennsylvania, we see this average, around 5,000 here as of late, around 3,000, 4,000 unemployment compensation claims. And this information here is not seasonally adjusted. And that's why you see those spikes in the winter months, in the summer months, so as individuals lose their jobs in seasonal positions, whether it's construction, whether it's education, you see that spike in initial claims. But thankfully, we're seeing things level out in terms of claims. Jamie might say otherwise when she gives her insight about UC activity, but in terms of the numbers have come back to fairly normal levels in central Pennsylvania. The next chart here I wanted to share were the national hires and quits information. You used to hear about this a lot in the news. You don't hear it as much, but you hear a lot of record number of quits. Things have just been going up and up in terms of the number of quits. But I wanted to show this information here to show that there's always been quits in the workforce. Again, this is national information we're looking at. There's always been people who have voluntarily left their job for whatever reason. They've decided to quit their job for whatever reason. On the other side, there's always been hires. There's always been this level of hiring activity and this level of quitting activity. There's always been this churn in the workforce. If we look back the last few years, on average, the monthly average for hires, we see 5.7 million, 5.8 million, 6.1 million, and 6.3 million hires in the workforce. So there's always been that level of hiring going on. But then if we look at the quits, on an average monthly basis, we're talking monthly numbers here, which is still staggering to me to think about. But there's 3.4 million quits, 3.5 million, 3.0 million, and then over the last year, there was an average monthly quit level of 4.0 million quits. And really, that's what I think all the talk should have been about, was not that there were 4 million, that there was an increase of quits going on for what we normally see. There was an increase of nearly 1 million monthly quits on average. And a lot of what you've heard about, read about, have experienced is this whole great resignation where individuals are reassessing their priorities, they're considering their circumstances, they're looking at millions of things, or they're just deciding they don't want to work at their job anymore and they quit. Of course, this leads to hiring challenges. Well, if you can get hires, and then also retaining those workers. So there's been a lot of unfortunate effects of the pandemic, as everybody rightly knows. There's a report out there called the Demographic Drought report. I always want to say demographic draft, I guess, because it's just the PH, but Demographic Drought. It's a report that was published by Economic Modeling Specialists International, EMSI. They're actually one of the data packages that we utilize in a lot of our research products. But EMSI published this report, this demographic drought report, to basically hammer home this idea that, the issues that the pandemic highlighted were issues that were already happening in the workforce. The pandemic really accelerated and brought to the forefront a lot of these concerns that were already happening in the workforce. There was already more job openings than there were available workers. There was already baby boomers retiring. But it just increased the level of baby boomers. I think it was estimated 2 million more baby boomers were retiring due to the pandemic. Of course, that leads to a shrinking labor force. There's lower labor force participation rates, especially among millennial males. There's a shrinking working age population. There's lower enrollments at schools, universities, and really, I think an update to this report shows that there's going to be a point in time where our population is going to start decreasing. I guess the idea is that we're not reaching that critical stage of 2.1 children per family, which is the replacement rate needed to continue to grow the population. So all this leads to this idea of a SANS-demic, which by definition is without people, or as EMSI pointed out, it's without enough people. You've probably seen this in your personal lives. You go to the fast food restaurant, you see the sign closing early, 7 o'clock due to staffing issues. You go to pick up the coffee, maybe 2 workers behind the counter when normally you'd see 5 or 6. There's just not enough people to fill all these positions. And so then if we look at local data, to see what the numbers might be showing for our local workforce development area. This chart here, we're looking at the online job postings data, which is shown in that light blue line. And you compare that to the unemployed number. Here, we're actually seeing more unemployed workers over the history of this time frame, but recently, past month or two, we're starting to see a change in that. And if anybody is familiar with our reports, I'm just going to plug this here. This is actually a new source of information, this EMSI Burning Glass, where they switched data sources. So if you've ever seen a report like this from us, you would have always seen more job postings. But long story short, they've gotten a better data source where they're able to hone in better on these job postings. But we are seeing that flip now, where there are more postings than there are unemployed individuals in central Pennsylvania. I'm just going to hit on this real briefly. You may have heard about a Jobseeker survey that we released several months ago now, or the results starting to compile. But basically, the idea was there was a lack of local data. I talked about those quits earlier. That information is only available at the national level. We wanted to take a look at locally if we could find out anything from the responses to address why people weren't returning to the workforce. I'm not going to share any of those results now, but if that's something that you'd be interested in finding out more about, please let us know. We haven't officially released the results, but we have started to share the information if there's something that you're interested in learning more about.